Hello and welcome to another Times Radio Q&A. Now today we're answering comments and questions from our channel members on frontline episodes and other videos on the war in Ukraine and its impact on the world stage. I'm Philip Ingram. I currently present Times Radio Frontline, but I'm a former senior British military intelligence officer and commentator on all matters geopolitics, defence, security and anything else people ask me to talk about. Now, getting straight into your questions, first point comes from Nick. And Nick, you ask, what is Putin doing now that is different from what he's done for decades? Very little is the actual answer. He's playing Donald Trump. He's playing Donald Trump like a master fisherman would be playing a very large salmon, having caught it on a homemade fly. And that seems to be what Putin is doing. He's doing everything he can to try and avoid making a decision regarding some form of ceasefire or make a decision that would upset Donald Trump and will continuously try and suggest that he wants to cooperate and to find a peaceful solution, but purely on his terms. And the reality is, if you analyse what he's doing, he hasn't changed his attitude from a few years ago to what he's doing now. So we've got the good old Vladimir Putin, and we brought this out in a number of the different frontline episodes this week. But we'll keep watching. I did ask yesterday in my frontline episode if there had been a change in Vladimir Putin when I was interviewing a former defense attaché in Moscow who knew him, and he said, no, there's been no change whatsoever. So we all agree on that. Sophie, you've been commenting on an interview with former defense advisor Emmanuel Macron. I think that was with Dominique Tinquan. And you say, surely you can absolutely not compare Alsace-Lorraine with the totality bombed Donbass, Lushansk, Mariupol and Crimea and all the territories of Ukraine. C'est pas, excuse my French, c'est pas du tout la même chose, and it's not all the same. You're 100% right, Sophie, and I'm assuming you're French and coming in from that. Good to see you watching us from France. It's too easy for commentators to try and compare different historical battles with what's going on today. It's easy to trip off the tongue. People are trying to put something into context, but often they don't understand what the battles were beforehand. They're completely different wars, completely different motivation behind them, and completely different scenarios that are going on. So it's not like comparing apples and pears, it's like comparing an apple and a carrot and trying to suggest that they're both similar fruits. So I can only apologise on behalf of all commentators out there who are doing this. You're 100% right. You cannot compare Alsace-Lorraine with what is going on inside Ukraine. And the totality of what Vladimir Putin is doing inside Ukraine itself is inconceivable. It's something that is similar to Russian tactics during the Second World War and would have been better potentially to compare things to the some of the battles that had happened on Russian territory. Anthony, you come in next and you say Europe is waking up from an 80-year snooze, but it's not waking up fast enough. The whole disingenuous Trump peace initiative is everything that Putin could have hoped for. While distracted, we failed to see Russian forces building up on the eastern borders of NATO. We saw this and denied the reality in January 2022. Why are only Eastern European news agencies reporting this right now? I'll start with the last bit. Eastern European news agencies, it's much more current for them. There's so much more going on in the UK, in France, in Germany and all the rest of it that are distracting our news editors and getting them to pick other stories that are there. However, the build-up of Russian capability, and we've had reports of them building facilities up on the border with Norway. We've had them reporting building up capability north of in the northern parts or north of Ukraine, potentially for a summer offensive into the north of Ukraine. We've had reports of them threatening out into the various different borders. That is today's news and very relevant to those countries that are butting up to Ukraine. We should hear more of it. And yes, Europe is beginning to wake up from an 80-year snooze, but it's not just an 80-year snooze, it's actually an 80-year let someone else look after our security. And that someone else was the United States of America. And for those that watch me, I'm no Trump fan, but I think what Donald Trump has done to force Europe in particular to wake up and look after its own security is only a good thing for Europe. I think it's a very bad thing for the United States because it will affect their defence industrial base, their defence exports around the world. Trump seems to be flip-flopping between his support for Putin or trying to threaten Putin and then giving in and extending those threats. So we live in interesting times. Let's hope our wider news agencies pick up and bring a more total view of everything that's going on. We'll try to do that in Frontline. Astro, I'd love to know who you are, Astro. You say Putin talks about future talks to determine a framework for future discussions of other discussions. Yes, there are things that we know, there are things that we don't know, and we don't know what we know. We don't know what we know. Yes, things like that. Surely Trump is helping Putin stall and talk about root causes such as Ukraine's rude desire not to be under his boot. Of course he is. I think Donald Trump doesn't realise the way Vladimir Putin is playing him, and Donald Trump can't understand why Vladimir Putin isn't seizing the opportunity to get this fantastic trade deal with the United States and start to do everything from a deal perspective. Trump is naive when it comes to geopolitics. He's naive when it comes to dealing with the wily old Russian style of operating. He thinks he knows it from a business perspective. That's very different from the political, geopolitical, underpinned by organised criminal nature of how Russia works. And Putin is playing him quite happily. Walter, good to see you back again. Walter, you say, is Putin really prepared to attack Finland? And if so, is he at the same time preparing to attack the Baltic states so that no help is ensured because of a lack of equipment and forces to send to each front? Putin's gesturing, and I think earlier I said Norway, I meant Finland. I think Putin is gesturing. He's trying to suggest that there is a Russian capability that's able to attack into Finland. But of course, he's not going to attack a NATO member. He knows if he attacked the Finns, it would not end up well for Putin. And that's just attacking the Finns. But by attacking them now, he's attacking NATO. So Article 5 would come in. He'll posture it. He's trying to make his people, those in his immediate circle, and those that are supporting him from other countries, Iran, China, North Korea, seem as if he's got a bigger capability. He may be building facilities. I don't think he's got the military capability to put it in there, because if he had that military capability, it would be in the front line in Ukraine. And then Smart Gran, you're commenting on John Loughran, where Putin is shaken by Europe's sensational rise in hard power. You say this speaker seems out of touch. The war's not at all complicated. Isn't it the case that for those not infected with Trump's muddled way of thinking, the truth is Putin invaded Ukraine, Ukraine defended itself, Putin needs to be conquered? Smart Gran, spot on. Absolutely, you've got it. It's very simplistic, and I don't know why people are trying to complicate it even more. And from an international rules-based society perspective, we can't allow someone to take over even part of another country by force. As soon as that precedent is set, then all hell's going to break loose across the globe. So thanks for watching this week's Q&A and for posting your questions. Remember, if you want access to exclusive videos and have your questions answered, please sign up for Times Radio membership. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.